What do you call two guys that were there when this happened?
Back to return at Spurlock. Michael Spurlock at the 10. He's to the 20. He's to the 25. For the 30. To the 40-yard line. We could see history. 50, 40, to the 30-yard line. Run, Michael. Run, Michael. Run, Michael. Run. Touchdown, Tampa Bay. There you go.
And that.
Shotgun set. 3 receivers left. And here's the snap, and the blitzer is picked up. Brady underneath. Caught ball. Evans. He has the record at the 11-yard line. Mike Evans becomes the first NFL player in league history to record 1,000 yards or more in his first 7 seasons and want to throw by Brady. Congratulations, Mike Evans.
Who can forget?
Gannon looking, Gannon throws up the middle. That's intercepted at the 30. Derek Brooks, 30. Touchdown, Tampa Bay. Derek Brooks, the most valuable player in the National Football League. There it is. The dagger's in. We're going to win the Super Bowl. Here's the snap. Mahomes running to his right. Look out. He may run. Mahomes directly. Oh, throw the end down. Battle intercepted. Picked off in the end zone. Bucs are going to beat the Chiefs. We're the champions of the world, and we still have 1:33 to go. Devin White, what a great second season. That's it for KC. Bucs are the Super Bowl champs. They can't stop the clock.
We call them the Salty Dogs.
Welcome, everybody, to the Salty Dogs podcast. I'm Scott Smith.
I'm Jeff Ryan.
We're the Salty Dogs.
Yes, but not so salty this week.
We're going to have a fun one this week.
I'm going to try anyways.
We've been having too many of those where we had to try to find a silver lining or say that the sky's not falling.
But it wasn't falling.
It wasn't falling, but, I mean, it's more fun to actually talk about a win.
Sure.
Rather than, hey, that was a loss, but look at these things.
Yeah. Well,
look
this
at
was
this
a
shiny object.
Yeah, well, this was a win, but let's look at these things.
Okay. Well, I thought it was a fun game.
Wow, I'm not so sure if it was fun.
It wouldn't have been fun to be on the field.
No, it was not a good time.
I kept hearing from the various people that we work with who work down on the field, like photographers and social people and so on. And boy, apparently it was pretty miserable.
It was really miserable. When TJ's mic came upstairs, I took the felt off of it and I had to wring it, and water came. I went, "This is not good, you guys. This is not good."
Casey Phillips. So she stays down there in the whole game and kind of MCs what's going on and helps with the stuff between plays and so on. And I used to do the pregame show down there with her and sometimes halftime, and we would be in that treasure chest that's now in the north end zone. It was previously in the south end zone. It's now by the ship, and it's like a big set that looks like a treasure chest that opens up, and DJ Eakin has his equipment in there. And she thought she was going to be in good shape compared to everybody who had to be down on the field because she's in the chest. Apparently, it has a bunch of leaks. So
it's not waterproof.
It's not at all. And she said eventually, because now it's getting all over DJ's equipment, DJ's equipment and stuff that she's trying to read and the microphones. And so they decided.
Water, electricity, not a good combo.
They decided to close the whole treasure chest. Which you don't normally want to do because she's on camera and they're shooting from outside the treasure chest.
So she's now in the dark?
Now she's just reading. She's not on the screen anymore. She's just doing the reads. And it's dark in there. So, and there's still water dripping. So she said she had her cell phone in one hand and she's holding a tarp over all the stuff with her other hand. And she's like underneath the tarp with cell phone the flashlight illuminating what she's supposed to read. Those are not great working conditions.
No, but that's a pro because I didn't notice that anything was going
that's
south.
A great point. She had to tell us.
You just you go with it. Yeah, we were looking at the radar during our pregame show, and I said, "Oh, perfect! It'll be just a little bit right after kickoff. We'll start seeing some rain." And then we saw the heavier storms come in, and it was not pleasant. And all everyone kept saying was, if we played at 1 o'clock, we'd be out of here by now.
That's something Jeff is already salty about.
Yeah, I mean, that was
we got flexed.
Yeah, thanks. So all those CBS cameramen and everybody, don't blame us that it rained. Blame your powers that be.
Whoever, and I don't remember his name, but we have somebody who's a local weatherman who does weather forecast up on the boards.
WFLA, yes.
And I was told today that he said that it was going to rain, but we shouldn't expect anything.
No, it started out it wasn't expected to be a big deal, and then
That's what the weather people were saying,
and then it developed. That's Florida,
and then it just kept getting harder and harder. And those guys, that was miserable.
Yeah, and oh, by the way, fans, for those of you who stayed and held in there, true fans, I liked it.
whenever they show the people who thought to bring like
ponchos
sitting in the stands and it's empty all around them because everybody else is running for cover, I'm always impressed that they were prepared, but they look miserable.
Well, a poncho sounds like a really great idea when you're sitting there, but you eventually, the problem is it's so humid in Florida that you're not getting wet because of the rain. You're just sweating yourself. So you're just like, okay, I'm wet anyways. What difference does it make?
Soaked to the bone.
Yeah. I mean, that was it.
Several of us had a question when halftime started, and I have not gone to get the answer. I wish I'd remembered before right now. Me and one of the guys in PR, we both independently, without hearing each other, wondered if they bring extra sets of uniforms for every player so that if this happens and they get soaked in the first half, at least they can go out in the second half in a dry uniform.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
You don't think so?
Uh-uh.
It would be a lot to manage.
Do you think about that? Because,
well, if you had an extra set, one of the equipment people could be in the locker room during the first half hanging up everybody's. I'd take 5 minutes to change in order to be dry going out to the second half.
Oh, you know what? I'm gonna text. Keep talking.
Okay. All right. Well, I think it was a fun game because some of our best players did amazing things.
Yes.
And so there's no reason to delay any longer talking about Mike Evans. He made the play of the game offensively with this 75-yard one-play touchdown drive. Caught it maybe 20 yards downfield, and then tacked on like 55 yards of yak, the most he's ever had on one play in his career. Had to dive to the pylon at the end. He thought he was in. Ref said no, he was out at the 1. Bucs challenge, and that was exciting because you could see in the challenge league, there's no way they're not overturning this one. It is a touchdown. Longest touchdown or play of any kind of Mike Evans' career, which given his career is kind of amazing that now he's getting his longest play ever. Apparently on the play, what I love when somebody asks Baker a question that puts him in the mode of technically explaining what happened on a play because it's so interesting to hear. And he was asked if Mike was his first read on that play because it certainly looked like it. Yeah. He said, not in the huddle. We get to the line. The way the play's designed, he's not the number one read. Evans isn't. And he's lined up over in the left slot. And but Baker gets there, and before the snap, he notices the safety. Chris Godwin goes in motion from left to right, and the safety kind of leaks to the middle of the field. So maybe 10 yards over from where he would have been over Mike's route more, but now he's in the middle. And Baker saw that and thought, this could work. And then apparently Mike ran such a perfect route for what he was supposed to do that he was in the exact spot that Mayfield needed him to hit him on that pass between defenders on the move, didn't have to break stride.
Right.
It's gone.
Off to the races.
So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was great.
And we'll get back to Mike, but like I said, our best players made the biggest plays. I've been saying all along, I don't know if we have a better player on defense than Antoine Winfield Jr.
Oh, you're absolutely
right. What
did
he not do in that game? He had a sack. He had the game-clinching interception. He had 3 passes defensed. He had 2 tackles for loss.
Yep.
He had a team-high 8 tackles. I went through his plays yesterday for something I was writing, and he had like 4 plays that ended drives on 3rd or 4th down. Like the sack ended a drive. He had a tackle for loss that ended a drive. He had another tackle that ended a drive. And, of course, the interception was on 4th down, and that ended the drive. The Panthers' last drive and their last chance. That
was a great pick.
After the Atlanta game and after the Houston game, when we give the ball back to the other team and they're not down by more than 9 points and there's less than a minute left, I get a little scared.
Yeah.
I was a little scared. And they actually had a little over 2 minutes to go.
Yeah, and all they needed was a field goal to tie.
Right.
Yeah.
So they get to a 3rd and 1, and this is the part that really surprised me. Because they ran the ball pretty well in that game. They get to 3rd and 1. Yeah. Time isn't really an issue. Mm-mm. And wait, they had more because we got the ball back with a little over 2 minutes. So they had more like 3.5 minutes when they got that drive. They don't run the ball on 3rd and 1, and it's incomplete. And then they don't run it on 4th and 1 either.
I know.
And it ends up with a play that's kind of a broken play where Young's scrambling, and he's motioning to Adam Thielen to turn his route up and go upfield, which was kind of smart because he got past the corner that was there. But so he tried to lob it over his head.
Yeah.
But fortunately, Antoine Winfield figured it out
On the fly.
and he was there for the pick.
On your question about changing uniforms,
Yep.
I text our director of equipment, Brad Berlin, and this is what I said to him. I go, question, did the players change into dry uniforms at the half? He immediately replies, 2 players, jerseys, 4 players, pants. About 20 guys, dry socks. Offered to everyone. Those were the only takers.
Wow.
I know. And then I said, thanks. We're recording Salty Dogs, and we were wondering. He replied, I expected a lot more jerseys. I think it's because it stopped, and they just didn't want to mess with it. A lot to change in 12 minutes at halftime.
This is great.
How's that?
This is good podcasting.
Yeah.
This is some of the best work we've done. Good
You're
job,
welcome.
Jeff.
You're welcome.
And thanks to Brad Berlin.
Yeah, well, he's a great guy.
Yeah,
I mean, all the equipment guys are
like
super.
Like Mike Myrick's been here forever. He's a great dude.
You know, and they look out. They look out for everyone, especially if you're on the sideline and they notice that your shoes are falling apart, or you're all wet, or it's cold. Maybe you need some gloves here. Let me help you out. So
that's good. Well, that's a great answer.
Yes,
I am surprised that Moore didn't take him. I know 12 minutes isn't long, but I think it's long enough to change a jersey.
Yeah. Well, whenever they expect, they always have rain gear. Like when they travel to an outside stadium, they have to bring it just in case. But I understand that. You're already wet. You're like,
I don't know, man. I hate being in wet clothes.
Oh. Well, but if they're sweating anyways.
Yeah, but there's a difference.
Yeah.
But that does answer the base question, which was they obviously have at least one more set of uniforms for every player because he said he offered it to all of them.
Yep, you have the option.
All right. That's good. That's good to know. What? You got something?
Well, no. Winfield makes the incredible. It kind of reminded me of a Johnny Lynch play. They call a little bit of Rondy Barber in there.
Well, I like the John Lynch comparison because, one, they're both safeties, and two, Monty Kiffin nicknamed John Lynch the closer.
Yeah.
Because he tended to get, and this is true, I've looked up the stats when we were trying to get him into the Hall of Fame, or not get him into, we were trying to aid in the pursuit of him getting in the Hall of Fame.
Aid.
And he did tend to get his picks late in games that were within one score. He was, like, think of the famous, what's the most famous regular season game in Bucs history, do you think?
The regular season,
not playoffs.
Famous game.
Maybe the best game. Maybe the most exciting game. It was a Monday night. It wasn't the Indianapolis game. I'm not talking about that. Travesty.
It was the Rams game again?
Yeah, in 2000.
Yep. Right.
38-35 shootout with Kurt Warner and the greatest show on turf. This was the next season after the Bucs defense had dominated in the NFC Championship game, but it slipped away from the Bucs at the end, and the final was 11-6 against a Rams team that was averaging more than 30 points per game.
And created the Bert Emanuel rule.
So in the defensive struggle, the Rams win. The next year in a Monday Night Football game that was critical for the Bucs in their playoff hopes. As it turned out, the Bucs won, but both teams ended up making the playoffs. But that was a shootout, and the Bucs won that one. So neither of those made a lot of sense. But who intercepted the pass at the end to seal the game? John Lynch.
He did that a lot.
That was after, we had scored on the, it was after that Sean King pitch back to the Warwick Dunn pitch back to Sean King play, and then Warwick scored on a 1-yard run or on a run, but he dived in from the 3-yard line. So we had taken the lead with very little time left. But still, Kurt Warner, he hit, I think it was Torrey Holt. He hit either Holt or Bruce in stride downfield, and they dropped it.
Yeah.
And then on the next play, Lynch picked it off.
Sure.
So,
can't give guys another chance. No question.
Anyway, Winfield, I'm still hoping all this ends up in making my prediction right that he'd be a first-team APL pro this year.
Yeah. A very unusual game, I will say, and we were talking about this, and I don't even know how you could look it up, but if I'm not mistaken, and if I am, you'll correct me.
That's one of my favorite things to do.
In the third quarter, there were 10 possessions.
How many of them ended in punts?
Well, almost all of them. There were 2 touchdowns scored out of that, but there were, I believe it was 10. I think we got the ball with 40 seconds left, so that would count as a third quarter possession. I think there were 10. Because what was funny, not ha-ha funny, but funny, is there were 4 possession changes, and we played 4 breaks of commercials.
That was at
time.
the beginning of the second half, right?
Yes, in the third quarter, yes.
It looks like there were 9.
9? What about?
Oh, no, you're right. Yeah, there was a 10th one that started with 41 seconds left and ended in the third quarter.
Okay, so that would be 10.
So 10, and the ones that ended in the third quarter, there were 2 touchdowns and 7 punts.
Yeah.
And then the one that ended in the fourth quarter was the Bucs touchdown with Chris Godwin.
Yeah. Crazy, huh?
Yeah, that was, obviously the rain had something to do with that.
Sure. But
and the conditions.
But have you ever seen that?
And 2 pretty good defenses, actually.
And then what was crazy, I got home, I was watching the Green Bay game, and I think they didn't even have 10 possessions by the time they got to the fourth quarter. And I was like, that's crazy.
Yeah. Did you see the Niners started out slow, and then they just every time they got the ball they scored?
Yeah.
When
you have 45 points, I figured they were scoring a lot.
They just can't be stopped when they've got all their people healthy.
Yeah, well,
they got all of their people healthy back just in time to play the Bucs.
Yeah,
it was basically Deebo Samuel and Trent Williams. Since
luckily, we caught them being a little rusty.
Since those 2 came back, they have not lost, and they've just been nearly unstoppable on offense. But we haven't really dived all the way into Mike Evans because it was a very momentous day for him.
Right.
On the same day that he had the longest play of his career and his 36th career 100-yard game.
Wow.
39 if you count the playoffs.
Yeah. I think last week I said that Mike Evans was going to get over 150.
Did you?
Yes.
Well,
I bet you, I think I did say that.
That was a topic of conversation because he came into the game 150 yards shy of 1,000 for the 10th straight year and for the 10th time in 10 years. And we knew it was coming because he had 6 games to go.
Sure.
So we were discussing this with, some people that involved in miking him up and preparing stories and stuff. And we thought, I was like, it probably won't be this week. I mean, Mike could always go off for 150 yards.
Sure.
He had done it 12 times before. So it's not going to surprise anybody, but if you're playing the odds, it's probably not this week.
Right.
And then he does it. 162 yards. The 75-yarder obviously helped, but he also had a 40-yarder. He had about 80% of our passing production in the game. I mean, I was just looking at something for an article about next-gen stats stuff. The Falcons only played man-to-man. Panthers only played man-to-man defense on 5 of Baker Mayfield's 30 dropbacks. He had 29 passes and 1 sack. And the 75-yard play was not one of them. That was against zone. But when they played man, Baker just killed on it. He had Baker and Mike Evans. He almost always threw to Mike.
Yep.
He was 4 for 5 for 66 yards and 118 passer rating, and converted several third downs. 3 of them, I believe. The second and the 7-yard catch, which was Mike's last of the night, that got it to 3rd and 1, so that Rashad could win it on the next play. That was a big play. That was against man because Mike was the only guy split out. Everybody was bunched up tight because they thought we'd run 2 more times to try to kill the clock.
Right.
The pass was a fantastic call. It was just a quick slant. All he had to do was beat that guy, and then Baker just had to zip it into his stomach.
And he did.
And they did. And the only one that was incomplete, you might remember a play where it was a 3rd down around midfield, and Mike kind of ran what they'd call a corner route, where he kind of bent towards the inside and then cut to the outside, and he totally beat the corner, who then pulled up lame, and he was open by 6 yards. I looked it up. He was open. He had 6. He was wide open, in other words. And Baker, it was just probably Baker's worst throw of the night, and it skipped on the grass, and it didn't work. But it worked in terms of it should have been completed.
Right.
So they didn't play a lot of man, but when we saw a man, we knew what to do about it.
Yeah.
Throw to Mike.
I'll say this, that, the Panthers may have been coming into this game at 1-10, but they got they're a pretty good defensive team, and they got their guys back. They're much healthier than they had
3
been.
of them.
And I spent some time with the Carolina Panther radio people, and we were talking and just all that was going on with the organization there. And they were like, yeah, the defense is pretty good, just the offense is struggling, and now. And so I was thinking, oh, great, that's just, we got to get these. We're catching them now. That being said, I thought Bryce Young played pretty well.
Yeah, he had some moments.
I mean, he had some moments. I mean, you could see where they struggle on their O-line. really doesn't have any receivers to really throw to.
I mean, I think Jonathan Mingo started to emerge.
He came about.
He's a second-round rookie, so he could be something.
He could be something new.
They had been throwing the ball all the time to Adam Thielen. Like, they came in this game, Adam Thielen had 77 catches, and the next player on the list had 28.
Yeah.
And I think it was a tight end or something.
Yeah. So, that was a game that, you felt like you needed to win, and you felt like you should win. But the Carolina Panthers also beat the Houston Texans, I think, the week before we played them. So,
it can happen.
happen.
I think they'll win another game.
We're going to take a sidebar here. I know this is crazy. You heard Scott go, and the reason why he did that is, well, Scott, tell him how your football injury of dislocating your shoulder came about.
I think, I didn't go to the hospital or anything, but I'm pretty sure I partially dislocated my left shoulder last week. I've done that 2 times before, fully dislocated it, playing softball, and stupidly sliding in head first. Probably the only 2 times I ever slid in head first. Both times I dislocated my shoulder, which should give you an indication of how good I am at sliding in head first.
And comprehending not to do that after you did it the
first
time.
time it happened, I'm like, I will never slide head first again. And then I was several years later, and all of a sudden I just did it, and I was like, why the hell did I do that?
Yeah.
Anyway, I never did it again after that, and now my softball quote-unquote career is over. So those 2 times it was totally dislocated, and I had to go to the hospital to get it popped back in. This one, I think it was out because I know how it feels, and I couldn't lift my arm. And then I kind of was just messing with it, and it felt like it went back in. And then if you've ever had a dislocated shoulder, you know that it hurts a lot when it's out. But as soon as you pop it back in, the pain goes away, and you have full range of motion. But then in the days to come, it's very sore. So, yeah, I did that.
How?
Is that important?
It's very important. Inquiring minds want to know.
I may or may not have dislocated my shoulder getting off my couch.
Yeah. I don't know if we heard that correctly. Did you say you may have dislocated your shoulder getting off your couch?
All right. I was lying down.
Oh, well, that would be very difficult.
Can you picture the maneuver where you sort of roll off the couch and put your feet underneath you and stand up? That's what I was going for until I realized the dog was lying there. And I had to adjust, and I ended up sticking my hand out and just jammed it.
Instead of putting it on the dog, you had to put it.
I wasn't going to hurt my dog.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is because the dog
I moved
was laying
and ended
there,
up jamming it really hard on the ground.
Okay.
So, yeah, I probably dislocated my shoulder getting off my couch.
Classic.
Which is
the
sort of things that happen to people of my age.
You could get the 2023 Couch Potato of the Year award.
And it does still hurt a little bit. That was like a week ago.
Yeah. But I will say this. You could have made up anything, and I would have believed it. But you because I noticed you were having problems with your...
It hurts a little more today for some reason.
Well, that's because we're bringing it up. That's why. You're thinking about it.
Well, I reached over here to get my phone, and that hurt, which is...
So Scott's basically playing injured today. So I appreciate that.
You gotta appreciate that I'm
it's victory,
putting in the effort here.
It's a victory week, and we're going to take full advantage of it.
So let's wrap up all the Mike Evans stuff.
All right.
He gets to... He got to 150 on an 11-yard catch on the left sideline.
Yeah.
We were ready.
Everybody was ready.
He later said that
they were ready.
That they knew on the sideline. He said people were telling me I needed 6 yards or 4 yards. I was hearing different numbers, but he knew.
And Baker said, "To hell with it. We're just going for 11 and getting it done."
Well, he kind of ducked under a tackle and tacked on some yak. Mike did, that is. So he has now obviously extended his streak of 10 straight 1,000-yard receiving seasons to open a career. Randy Moss is second at 6. So he's had that record for a while.
Yeah.
But forget about the beginning of his career. 10 straight at any point in a player's career. He's now tied for the second longest with Moss, I think. And let me see.
What I find interesting.
No, he's all alone. He's second. He's only one behind the great Jerry Rice for the longest streak of 1,000-yard seasons. Yeah. Rice had 11.
What I find amazing is he started out as a rookie getting 1,000 yards. Where you're thinking, you're first getting into the NFL. How often are you going to get used? And the fact of the matter is, he even said this. He's gotten better, not only understanding the game more. But physically, he is better than he was, which is pretty remarkable considering how many years he's played. But he's only what, 30?
He's a young 10th year player.
Yeah.
Because he came in young.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's pretty remarkable.
Still, in the grand scheme of things, when people talk about athletes and NFL players, you hit 30, you're starting to be thought of as, like, what's Levante, 33, 34?
Something like that.
Every year it's like, I can't believe he's still playing at this level.
Yeah.
When you and I would say 33 is a nice young age.
Well, yeah, considering you dislocated your shoulder getting off the couch, yes. Just saying.
Hey, Levante's hurt right now, too. So we both have the same level of toughness.
Let me get this right. He was running full speed, dragging down a guy, and got rolled up on.
Yeah, but he didn't have to try to avoid a dog that was lying at his feet.
That's true. That's true.
So Mike's 10 career 100-yard receiving seasons, period, not consecutively or anything, is tied with Randy Moss for second behind Jerry Rice's 14.
Right.
And here's a good one. He's had 5 seasons where he's had 1,000 yards and at least 10 touchdowns because his touchdown catch was his 10th of the year.
Right.
There are 7 players who have at least 5 such seasons, Mike being one of them. The other 6 are all in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I feel like at the beginning of this season, we were making arguments for why Mike's resume was very close to him being a first ballot Hall of Famer. And now whenever you hear this discussion, I think the conversation's over. I think everybody has decided that, yeah.
You would think.
He's a Hall of Famer. There's virtually no doubt there. Is he a first ballot Hall of Famer, like Baker said at the podium after the game? I think so.
Right.
And he could be right now if he walked away. He's not walking away right now.
No.
He's going to tack some more onto this.
Correct.
So he's at 91 touchdown catches. Let's get an update on where that ranks. 91 touchdown catches in his career. He's got 92 catches overall. Touchdown catches. 92 touchdowns overall because, as I frequently explain, he had a fumble recovery touchdown in 2018, I think. Let's see. Let's look at this list.
He changed the game because if you got to remember too is that Carolina just scored and a lot.
Oh yeah, it was the next play.
Oh yeah, and everyone went, "Oh no, here we go."
And we had been having so much trouble moving the ball.
Right.
Just couldn't put together a consistent drive.
The whole stadium, just the mojo or the electricity in the stadium, totally is like someone threw the switch. So finish up.
So he's at 91 touchdowns, which is tied for 13th. The only other active player there or higher is Devontae Adams, also with 91. The Raiders were off this week. So there are, as I said, so he's tied with Bruce and Devontae Adams for 13th. So there's 15 players in NFL history who have had at least 91 touchdown catches.
Yeah.
I'll read them to you. Jerry Rice, Hall of Fame. Randy Moss, Hall of Fame. Terrell Owens, Hall of Fame. Chris Carter, Hall of Fame. Marvin Harrison, Hall of Fame. Larry Fitzgerald will be a first ballot as soon as he's eligible. Antonio Gates, probably a first ballot as soon as I think this year. Mm-hmm. He's on the ballot.
Eligible.
Tony Gonzalez, Hall of Fame. Tim Brown, Hall of Fame. Steve Largent, Hall of Fame. Don Hudson, Hall of Fame. Rob Gronkowski, first ballot Hall of Famer when he's eligible.
Yep.
Devontae Adams looks like he's on the way, and Isaac Bruce, Hall of Fame.
Great company.
And behind him, right behind him, is Don Maynard, Hall of Fame. Jimmy Graham, not eligible yet, still playing. Andre Reed, Hall of Fame. Lance Allworth, Hall of Fame. I mean,
those are Hall of Famers.
He's already there, right?
Yeah, right.
It's just, is he first ballot? Well, he's not done. He's not done with his season. He's only needs 9 more touchdown catches in his entire career to get to 100, and he would only be the 11th player ever to do that.
Sure.
Come on, you don't think Mike Evans is getting 9 more touchdowns in his career?
You would think.
I think it's a given.
Yeah.
So I'm saying first ballot.
All right. I like how you're thinking. Good. I like how you're thinking.
All right. What else? What should we talk about?
Well, what else you got on that game?
I thought Carlton Davis played well.
He played very, very well.
It just seemed like there were lots of plays where he was contesting the catches.
He was.
And he didn't end up with any amazing stat line. He didn't technically have any passes defense because I think you got to get your hands on the ball.
Yeah.
But I can recall. I recall during the game thinking Carlton's playing well. Mm-hmm. So that's good, especially with Jamel
very,
Dino.
very important. I think a guy that I'm really happy for that he had a good game is Ryan.
I knew you were going to say that.
Well,
no, it was good.
He came here and things haven't been as smooth as everyone has hoped for, and the outside world pointing a lot of fingers and this and that. And so here's a guy that gets called into service, never playing the position, and ends up with a game ball. And if you haven't seen it, you should go to Buccaneers.com and you looked on videos and you can see the locker room celebration and Todd Bowles doing game balls. And that's pretty sweet.
So in case anybody...
2 of them. One to
Mike, obviously. In case anybody needs the details there, the Buccaneers have 5 off-ball linebackers on their active roster right now. 3 of them were inactive for the game. Levante David and Devin White, the starters, were out.
Yep.
Servassier Dennis was out also with an illness.
Yeah.
So there were only 2, and they had to start. One is KJ Britt, a 5th-round pick 3 years ago, who has started 1 game. Mm-hmm. And that was that game against Atlanta last year where we didn't need it, and we played mostly reserves.
Yeah.
He had not played on defense this year, I don't think. And the other one was J.J. Russell, who was an undrafted free agent in 2022, whose only start ever was that same Atlanta game, and who has spent most of this year on the Bucs practice squad.
Uh-huh.
That's it. That's what you go into the game with.
Yep.
You're hoping those guys can play the whole game, but you have to have a contingency plan, and you don't have any other linebackers. So the contingency plan was Ryan Neal, the safety. Yeah. He's a good physical safety, big safety, but he's not a linebacker.
No.
He didn't look like a linebacker standing out there next to J.J. Russell.
No. But
KJ Britt gets hurt 7 defensive snaps into the game, which is terrible for him.
And at that point, my head is down now because I'm thinking, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
How are we going to do this?
We had gotten a little bit of an inkling from seeing portions of practice that are not open to the media. It's not anything we could talk about ahead of time, but it was not a surprise to those of us who saw it because he got a little work on Thursday and a little work on Friday, but not much.
No.
He said just enough to kind of have an idea what was going on.
Yeah, like I think I'm supposed to be here.
So he was the emergency plan, and he played linebacker for more than 3/4 of that game and did fine.
Yes.
He even had one of the biggest plays when he run blitzed and caught Chuba Hubbard from behind near the goal line and forced him to go for a field goal.
Yep.
That was huge. But otherwise, just you noticed because he's wearing 23 and he's smaller than a linebacker and he's out there playing linebacker. But you didn't notice like, oh, God, we just got burned because we have a safety playing linebacker, right?
Right.
It's like the way you don't want your offensive lineman to get talked about for the most part.
Exactly.
So what a great thing.
Yeah, I was very, very happy. I'm always, you take your lumps in this league. Either you're a hero or you're a dog.
Ryan Neal was the guy that it seemed like the Bucs got a steal on because he had a really good year for Seattle last year.
Very much so.
And they initially gave him the tender offer that made him a restricted free agent to start the offseason. But then they signed a safety, and I can't think of who at the moment. Mm-hmm. And so they decided to remove that tag, which made him a free agent, and the Bucs swooped in. And he happened to be here in Tampa at the time.
Right.
I don't remember why. I think he was working out or something with a trainer or something.
Yeah.
There's karate girls walking out.
Yeah. Someone's kids.
Yeah. So he came in with that. Wow, we have other than Antoine, we don't have any experience at safety. So this is a great boon for the Bucs.
Sure.
And then like you said, he was playing safety. It wasn't going as well as everybody had hoped. He talked about that yesterday. That's hard for him.
It's very hard.
And so he started to lose playing time. They were using D. Delaney in most passing situations, and so he was only playing like a third of the snaps instead of all of them.
Right.
And then he is asked to do this and just proves to be such a great team player. Gave the team exactly what they needed. And
right.
I'm hoping we don't need him to play next week, but at least you got an option.
Well, and he ought to be better because he's done a game already.
Yeah, but I'll tell you,
that's hard.
The Panthers are a fine rushing team. The Falcons are a great rushing team. Yeah. So that would be a concern.
Hopefully we get Levante back.
We're hoping. Servassier should be back because he was just sick.
Yeah, I saw him yesterday.
Okay,
he was in the building yesterday, and I think he was over his whatever it was. And Levante, let's see, on Sunday, that would be 3 weeks. So I think there's a chance that
Coach
he might
Bowles
be ready.
said there's a chance.
Yeah.
He was hopeful.
Yeah. It just depends.
I really want him for this game, not only because Atlanta's such a good running team, but when I picture a great Levante David performance in my head, it's in Atlanta.
Sure.
He seems to always just kill it in Atlanta.
You know, you're funny about you say that. Mike Evans seems to kill it against the Panthers.
He certainly has the last 2 weeks.
I guess that's why I kind of threw out there, like, I think he's getting 150 yards.
Well, he had 209 and 3 touchdowns in the last game against them.
Yeah.
They don't want to see any more of Mike Evans.
No.
Especially since they lost James Bradbury, who was, him and Mike had some good battles. Mm-hmm. Not quite Mike and Marshawn Lattimore, but similar.
No.
So, yeah,
which is a good thing.
You know what we had? There was a rarity in that game, a statistical rarity.
Mm.
The Buccaneers had 4 sacks. Do you know who had them?
They were all rookies.
Antoine Winfield.
No.
You probably remember that one.
Yeah.
Yaya got one where he
chased him.
Chased him out of bounds. And then J.J. Russell, first career sack. The 4th sack was credited as a team sack.
What?
A team sack. And it was on the play where Bryce Young threw what I guess was supposed to be a swing pass, but it was deemed to be thrown backwards.
Oh, right.
And it went out of bounds.
Correct.
So that was deemed to be a fumble.
Oh.
And so I guess statistically you have to credit a sack there because that's the play.
So everybody on the defense gets
It's just credited to the team.
Oh.
It just says team. Oh. And it's the second time in Bucs history that they've been credited with a team sack. Just the second time.
I thought maybe like each guy got 1/11 of it.
That would be terrible because all the stats would look ugly.
Yeah, but that would be great because a guy that's never ever shot at getting one's got 1/11 of one. New rule.
I don't think I would. That would be chaos. They used to occasionally split sacks 3 ways back in the 80s.
Yeah.
And we have a couple players on our all-time sack list that the numbers are just gross because it'd be like 14.3. And
come
gross.
on. Yeah, just round it up or
just choose 2 guys. They'll only do 2 guys now. They will never split it between 3 or more anymore.
Right. It's not like hockey where you can have a number of assists.
7 assists. Yeah. So a team sack. And
I didn't know that. I remember the play because it rolled out of bounds, and it was, first of all, they called it an incomplete pass, and it wasn't. We called it right away that it wasn't an incomplete pass.
That it was backwards?
It was backwards.
I said the same thing. You could tell.
Immediately, yes.
But
Go ahead.
It was initially ruled an incomplete pass, and then they were gathering together because, then it has to be grounding because there was nobody over there, and he was standing in the pocket, and it didn't get back to the line of scrimmage either. But since it was backwards, it was technically officially a fumble. Mm-hmm. So there's no penalty for grounding, but the ball went out of bounds on a fumble. So it was the exact same result. The ball would have been in the same place, and there would have been a loss of down either way.
Right. And the problem that they had to figure out where exactly they needed to put the ball. There was a lot of discussions. That seems to be the new thing this year, or at least I am noticing it more in the officiating this year, that everyone likes to have a conference.
I'm all for it.
Well, I am too, but here's the one thing that I don't understand. A flag is thrown. They all go get together. He goes, "This is what I saw." And everybody else goes, "No, you didn't see that. You didn't see that. Pick up the flag." And they pick up the flag. So I don't get it. If the guy thinks he saw it.
It's very frustrating when it happens to your team. Well, you're talking about the Mike Evans pass interference.
Yes.
And they threw a flag for pass interference, and they got together and they said no flag. And it is frustrating. I assume what happens in those is that several people will tell the guy who threw the flag, "Hey, I know you think that's what happened, but from my angle, I could tell
that's
that
fair.
That's
fair.
It wasn't that, it was this." And then another guy corroborates that, and so the guy goes, "Okay, I thought I saw a pass interference, but you guys explained why it's not."
I was blocked, so I didn't see that view.
Or he just
yeah. All right.
It could be like, you call pass interference and you don't realize the ball was tipped. And once the ball is tipped, there's no pass interference.
Right. Now, see, I understand that. Like if you throw a flag and then they say, it's being picked up because the ball was tipped.
I saw the replay.
Okay.
I could see the argument either way.
Yeah.
And usually when you could see the argument either way, you just let whatever the call was stand, right? So I did agree that was a little frustrating.
Right. I also go by what the player does too. I mean, when a player jumps up right away and throwing his arm, flag, I don't take that as the be-all to be-all. I kind of look at more body language than just the
So the fact
flag.
that there was no protestations?
Yes.
Or there were protestations?
There was. So I do appreciate that. So that was very bizarre.
Did you think the Carolina return man on that kickoff that basically hit the pylon didn't know the rule?
He did not know the rule because had he stepped out of bounds, the ball would have been on the 40-yard line.
If he stepped out of bounds and touched the ball.
Yeah.
That's an obscure rule that a lot of people don't know, that I learned early in the 90s. So you probably know if you're listening to this podcast that if a kickoff goes out of bounds before it gets to the end zone, that's a penalty on the kicking team, and the ball goes out to the 40, which is great for the return team.
Sure.
How many returns get to the 40?
Not many.
Touchbacks only go to the 25. I ranted about that last week. If you're standing with any part of your body out of bounds and you grab the kickoff, even if it's in bounds, that is now considered the ball going out of bounds. So that gets the penalty. And a heady return man probably would have done that right there. It was a golden opportunity to do it. But he just kind of – I actually ran in to Keith Armstrong, and he said it may have been just that he wanted to return it initially. And if that's true, that's on his part a bad decision. Because what are the chances you're going to get to the 40? All you got to do is step out of bounds and grab the ball, and your team's at the 40, and your coaches are loving you. I mean, it wasn't a terrible outcome. They got the ball to 25.
Yeah, but still.
Yeah, you got to know the rules.
But we keep changing the special teams rules. That's the problem.
So Chris Godwin. Before this game, because his production of late has been a little down, nothing dramatic.
No.
And he's been banged up, and I think that has something to do with it.
Yes.
Coach Canal said, yeah, we want to get him. We need to get him into the end zone. He only had one touchdown. Well, we got him into the end zone, but probably not the way Dave was expecting.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Chris took it in his own hands, so to speak.
Chris did not have a catch.
No.
He did not have a catch in the game, yet he scored
19 yards.
A 19-yard end around, and as soon as he went in motion, it was 3rd and 1. It was a critical 3rd and 1. As soon as he went in motion, I was like, oh, please give him the ball, because we've seen that play.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's worked every time. Remember the NFC Championship game?
Yes.
In Green Bay? I loved it. It was like, as soon as they handed off, I'm like, we're getting this yard. And then he just followed blocks. I think Kate Otten had a nice block downfield and got all the way into the end zone for the touchdown, so he got in. And Godwin had 0 catches in the game, and I saw him in the locker room right afterwards with Mike when they first came in.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have known. You could have thought he had 10 catches. He did not appear perturbed in the least. He's one of those guys that when 5 years from now we're going, let's talk about the best team guys we've had. He's a guy you'd bring up.
He was on Bucs Total Access yesterday.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it's a great listen. I even said this after the show was over with. I just said, "Hey, Chris," I said, I've truly appreciated you, but after sitting here and listening to you speak, I just appreciate you even more. And it's not that I don't appreciate you before, but because of the kind of person you are and what you say and your actions, very inspiring.
Yeah.
And it's a great listen. He talks about the reason why he's the way he is. He's good people. There's no question about
he's
it.
Good people,
and
sure.
He's excited for his teammates. Mm-hmm. You know, he's not a me guy.
Never has been.
No. So that is very, very refreshing. But that's a good listen.
It kind of left things in an unusual situation though, because Chris's next game, this coming Sunday in Atlanta, is going to be the 100th game of his career.
Oh,
I generally
mark that down.
I generally try to make a point of telling guys that during the week because they generally don't know. Chris might know.
Yeah, maybe.
Because to me, no matter, I don't care about anything else about your stats or your rings or anything else. If you've played 100 NFL games, you've had a successful career.
Exactly. And the way he came to rehab back to continue playing, remarkable.
And then he had like 100 catches last year. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be his 100th game. You know how many catches he has?
Total this year?
In his career, 499.
Oh.
So he'll hit 500 in his 100th game.
Those are great notes. I'm going to use that.
That's what I'm here for.
100th game, and if he makes a catch, his 500th catch. Mm-hmm. Wonder if they'll keep the ball.
If they know.
Yeah. Well, I'll talk with Brad.
Yeah. Apparently you could text him and he'd get it right now.
Apparently people answer my texts. Aren't you impressed?
Here's the thing.
At least I didn't get the who is this?
Who dis?
Who's this?
Here's the thing.
Okay.
That I find interesting.
Will we?
I hope so.
All right.
3rd downs. They've turned around. You know how big of a problem that was for us,
Very much so.
particularly on defense. In this game, they were 3 of 15.
But there were a couple third downs that irritated me that we gave up.
They only gave up 3.
Yeah, but they were long ones. If I'm not there's one that was pretty long.
I
don't have a game.
They
book in
had
front of me.
it couldn't have been any longer. Wait,
There's one like 15 yards, something like that.
I don't think so.
No? Okay. Maybe.
They were all 3 of their. They converted. Well, none of them were longer than 10 yards.
Okay. I stand corrected.
They were 3 of 15, and the remarkable part is they were 1 of 5 from third and 1 to 3rd and 3. We stopped 4 of their 5 really short third downs.
Wow.
That's big.
That says a lot.
And we weren't doing that much earlier in the season. They were 1 of 2 from 4 to 6, and 1 of 4 from 7 to 10, 0 of 3 from 11 to 20, and 0 of 1 from beyond 20.
Yeah.
So 3 of 15 that game. Let's see. Indianapolis was 2 of 11. Houston was only 3 of 11 a few weeks ago.
Okay.
San Fran was 4 of 10, which it's not
good.
awesome, but
Yeah.
over the last. So after.
Yeah, 3 games.
Those weren't consecutive, but after 7 games, the Bucs were last in the league, allowing 50.5 conversion rate on third downs. 50.5, last in the league. Over the last 5 games, they've only allowed 29.0%. So either the problem is solved or we're on a nice little run.
Yeah, I'd say we're on a nice little run because your problem's not solved until you continue doing it all the time.
So on offense, the last 4 games for the Bucs, 7 of 15, 7 of 14, 5 of 13, and 6 of 15.
Right.
That's a nice little run.
Yeah.
Because they've been struggling a little bit. That's 43.9% over those 4 weeks. So third down, I think, had been a weakness for us in terms of comparing what we were getting to what the other team was getting, and now I feel like it's been a strength. So that's nice.
Yeah.
But stopping them 4 or 5 times on third downs of 3 or few yards, I think, is the key point I'm making here.
Yeah, and it's huge.
And also, talking about things that are turning around, do you think we have a run game now?
I think we might have discovered it. Yes, I think he's doing an awesome job finding the holes.
Not just Rashad,
right,
the line.
Yes, but also the power running.
I think what it is, part of what it is, while the line is maybe gelling a bit, also Rashad seems to be doing a better job of picking the right lanes now.
Right.
And I'll read you something that Dave Canales said before this game. The Bucs had a season high 128 yards against the Panthers, but they had 125 the week before against Indy. They've averaged about 5 yards a carry over those 2 games. Dave was talking his typically very fleshed out and informational answer to any question. Why is the running game turning around? It starts with the offensive line. It starts with Hainsey getting us directed the right way, which he's doing a great job, and then seeing Cody's growth, especially over the last couple of weeks.
Yes.
And Stinney doing a great job. That group, really. Then Rashad trusting what's happening in front. That's what I'm talking about.
Yep.
He's talking about the Colts game. I thought it was his best disciplined run game that he had of the year in terms of just pressing the runs the right way to force the defense into those combo blocks.
Right. Which basically is saying this is where you run no matter what you see, run.
Yeah.
Correct?
Or I guess, or these are the possibilities of what's going to happen, and if it goes right, this is where the lanes are going to end. And the combo blocks, we're talking about duo where, Savannah's.
It's official.
Hi.
Come on.
Yeah, there you go.
Yay. Thank you,
Thank
Savannah.
you.
Okay, that means mine's on my desk, too.
Our intern last year would always just slip it under the door. And Savannah wanted to come in.
Yes. Well, she could have come in.
I just don't know if she knew she could slip it under the door. But she did.
Yep. Done deal.
So, yeah, maybe we got a run game now. That would be nice.
Well, I'm hoping we continue that to have something. I think that it certainly helps everything else going on. And when you start getting the run game, considering Dave said that he wanted to be able to establish the run, it shows that the guys are buying into the offensive scheme and they're understanding it more and more each game, which is pretty crucial right now because your back's up against the wall.
Yeah.
There's no wiggle room right now.
Yeah, and when you have a new coordinator and you're installing a whole new offense, and you have a new starting quarterback, and you have a lot of differences on the offensive line, you kind of expect it to take a while to gel. And this may be a process that lasts more than one season. We make some strides this year, then we have another offseason to work on it, and maybe next year, from the beginning, the running game is more efficient, more productive. We'd love it to be great down the stretch, but even if it's not a huge improvement, it's nice to see
if it stayed
in the right direction.
If it stayed at where it has been the last couple of games, I think we'll be okay.
All right, so do we need to talk about anything more in that game? Diaby looked good again.
Oh, gosh, did he not?
He had another sack when the chase out. He's now second amongst all rookies in sacks. Third-round pick.
Unbelievable.
He's been a find.
I think the young kids played really, really well. The rookies played really, really well. No question.
Kayvon Merriweather got into the game.
He got in, did well.
Okay. How about Atlanta? That's where we're going next.
Well,
chance for revenge.
I watched the Atlanta Jets game, and it was a real slugfest.
Sorry about that.
Well, I actually had the red zone on, but then I was like, I try to watch the teams that we're going to be playing just to get an idea.
This was in the 1 o'clock window since we were flexed to 4 o'clock.
Right, and so the Jets had their opportunities. It didn't help that they fumbled the ball like on the 40-yard line. So, but it was a very low-scoring game. Nothing made me go, wow, Atlanta's just a real, powerhouse. But the problem with them is they could break out at any time. Because they do have a great running game.
They do have a great running game, and that's going to be the key.
And they have a great kicker.
They sure do. He never misses.
And they're going to be indoors. So they're playing on a 40-yard field.
They also have some decent defensive numbers. I think they're 10th in yards and 7th in points or something like that. So
and they're in first place. So you can't discount that.
So the Bucs are going up there to battle for a piece of first place.
Yeah.
They are 5-7. Atlanta's 6-6. The Saints are also 5-7, and they are playing Carolina.
Right.
At home, I think. So chances are they'll be 6-7.
Well, I like to see,
chances are.
Chances are.
That's all I said. Chances are.
But Carr is hurt, concussed.
Yeah, but Carr wasn't playing all that great.
Well, he brought him back from Detroit until he got slaughtered. They were down like 24-0, and they came roaring back in the second half. They scored like 3 touchdowns.
Do you want me to look up the numbers? He's not playing that well.
Well, I understand that, but I think he's better than their alternative.
Jameis?
So, yes.
It's close.
We're going to find out.
It's close.
Come on, Carolina. Show us show us some spunk.
Play some D.
Yeah.
So the Bucs, if they were to win in Atlanta, which we know is definitely no sure thing.
No.
Not saying anything of the like.
But we certainly hope
would
so.
At worst be tied with Atlanta for first and then potentially
you're in trouble if you
also tied with the Saints.
Yeah, the problem that you have is if you don't beat Atlanta, that means they swept us, and that's not a good thing.
I would say...
I don't mean to be salty about this, but I'm still mad about that game.
Yeah.
Okay? So, this is a revenge game. You have to, all games... it's funny when everybody goes... there was a question of, well, you beat the Panthers, but this Atlanta game, this is a must-have game. All games are must-have because at the end of the season, you don't get extra credit for winning in September, and they all count the same. So this particular game, though, because of how the season unfolded, you really need, if you want to win if you want to continue to have a chance to win the division, I truly believe you have to win this game.
Yeah. So let me...
Will you agree or no?
I 100% agree. I don't think that the Buccaneers have to sweep the remaining 5 games to win the division.
No, I didn't. No.
I do think they need to win this one.
Yeah.
And then if they don't, they still have a shot, but it's slim, and they still can fight for the wild card.
Correct.
But the chances of them winning the division if they lose this game will be very slim.
Yeah, and
I'll explain why.
Well,
after you talk.
The difference too is The Bucs can control their own destiny
I was going to bring that
right
up.
now.
Yep.
If you don't win this game, now you got to ask someone to help you.
Yeah.
Okay?
So let's explain why.
Let's explain why.
The Buccaneers, if they lost to the Falcons, would be 2 games back. And Atlanta, it would be functionally 3 games back because Atlanta would have the tiebreaker over them. So they can't tie and get the division. They're 3 back.
Right.
And they would only have 4 games left. And Atlanta's remaining schedule isn't that hard.
No.
It would be very surprising for the Buccaneers to come back from that over the last 4 weeks. If they win, as Jeff said, it is true. They control their own destiny. They would be tied with Atlanta at 6-7. And if both teams won out, if the Bucs win out and Atlanta loses even 1 game, and in New Orleans too, then obviously, Bucs winning out means they'd beat New Orleans. So New Orleans is out of the picture. If the Bucs win out, even if Atlanta wins out and they're tied at 10-7, they are now head-to-head 1-1. Both teams would have a 5-1 record in the division, and then the next thing is record in common games. There are 12 games that the Bucs and the Falcons had the same opponent, like they both played everybody in the AFC South, as an example.
Right.
The Buccaneers would win the common games, I think 9-3 to 8-4, something like that. I think the key is that Atlanta may have lost to Tennessee. I think Bucs beat Tennessee.
Yeah.
So Jeff is correct. If the Bucs right now control their own destiny, win 5 and they win the division. After the Atlanta game, it'll be even more like that. If they lose, they definitely do not control their own destiny and probably have a better shot at a wild card.
And the other side of it is you got to have a streak here.
That's right. You got to go on a run.
You can't win 1, lose 2, win 1. You got to get back to where you were in September when you were 3-1. In the month of December, if you could roll off 3-1, I think you'd be in pretty good shape. Now the key though is which one. If you're not going to win all,
if you're not going to
win all
that's
4,
an easy answer, Jacksonville.
Yeah, yes,
because it's an AFC opponent.
And so now, I'm not even gonna bother to look ahead because I did watch that Green Bay game all the way to the end. And Green Bay seems to be catching their stride.
Yeah, Jordan Love's starting to look really good.
They are.
Jeff's bringing this up because we play in Green Bay in Week 15.
Yeah, next week. Not this week, but next week. 2 Sundays from now. So I, it's one game at a time. But I would like to see us, the Buccaneers. Well, I'll say us. My check says Bucs on it.
It's electronic.
I understand. Well, I know, but it's still. You know what I'm saying. I think it's just one of those. If you're going to be a contender, you got to put a little bit of a streak together.
Well, yeah.
And you can't be hoping everybody else helps you. So I'm in that vein. And I want to win the division because I want everyone to grouse because it's not the strongest division, as everyone says. But you know what? You get a home playoff game, and that would be awesome. And actually, when you really look at the NFC, there's probably maybe 7 teams that are 500 and above, and the rest are struggling. So that's almost half.
You bring up these stats, and last time you did it,
you can look at. This
I looked it up, and you were totally wrong.
Look at NFC, not AFC. I said NFC. AFC is very good. AFC is really good.
All right.
NFC, how many? 500.
9 teams are 500 or better.
Okay. I said 7.
Only 5 are over 500 because there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4, 6, and 6 teams. I mean. Somebody around here was saying it yesterday. We think got to win the division. Probably not going to win a wild card, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams that are either 6-6 or 5-7. Yeah. The 6-6 teams that are ahead of the Buccaneers right now are Minnesota, who doesn't have a quarterback and is about to play.
Wow.
Las Vegas.
Yeah.
At Las Vegas. Green Bay.
Yeah.
We just talked about them. They're doing well. They're at the Giants. Okay, well.
Yeah. Well, but the Giants have been playing pretty good.
The Rams.
They're hot right now. They're having
fun. The Rams, I think they got a tough one. Don't they have Baltimore? Yeah, the Rams have to play at Baltimore.
Okay.
Seattle, they've been up and down.
Loss.
Yeah, that was a tough opponent. They're at San Francisco. So it would not be a surprise to see 2 of those last 2 6-6 teams lose this week.
And there's another reason why you want to get to that, so you can pull. You want to win, so you can get into also the wild card, or as they say on TV all the time, in the hunt. So Very, very important game. But, it's December, and that's, that's you can't lose the whole month of December and expect to get into the playoffs, as we well
as
know.
we know from 2008, right?
I'm just saying.
One of the least fun games or streaks.
Yeah. So hopefully things will start going. And if you can get healthy, or I think it's like you said, getting Levante back would be really huge. Very, very big. So
huge.
We'll be paying attention to that. All right. What else you got?
I think I'm good.
You're good.
We got questions.
We do.
You want to go to some questions?
All right. Let's go to some questions.
Let's go to some questions.
Go to the questions. All right. I totally appreciate you sending your questions, and Scott's going to tell you how to do it if you're sitting there going, I have a question. I wonder how I send it to the Salty Dogs.
I should have.
Yeah, but continue.
If you like to send us questions, and we would love for you to send us questions.
Or comments.
And
oh, by the way, Peg, if you're ever listening to these podcasts, I'd like to hear back from you.
I hope she's still listening.
I hope so, too.
You send an email to...
Do you remember Nancy, the nurse, that used to write to us?
Yeah.
And we haven't heard from her.
Her emails were always in some kind of colorful, interesting font, too.
Uh-huh.
She really tried to make it look pretty.
I certainly hope she's still listening.
Send emails to us at saltydogs@buccaneers.nfl.com. Don't forget the .nfl part in the middle.
Okay.
It's not buccaneers.com. We love them. We try to get to all of them if possible. Comments, rants, telling me why I'm right and Jeff's wrong, things like that. We love to hear those things.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
We're all in.
This is from Dan DeMaria, who's in Palm Harbor. I think he wrote to us last week.
Okay. Local guy.
Ahoy, Salty Dogs. I'm glad we won to keep our playoff and division title hopes alive.
Yes.
I'm so happy for Mike Evans getting another 1,000-yard season.
See, he's that guy. Everybody pulls for him.
You're gonna notice a theme in these emails this week.
All right.
We need to keep him for as long as possible. I hope we win again next Sunday because our chances of making the playoffs and winning the division are on the line next Sunday. It's do or die time.
Yep.
I wanted to ask you guys if they could please do another Tampa 2 Salty Dogs mashup podcast because you did one before and I loved it, just like I love both shows. I also want to give a shout out to the Bucs fans who braved the rain and stayed the whole time. Did you guys or Casey Phillips or Brianna Dix get wet or drenched? And did you step in any mud afterwards? Sincerely, Dan. And he says, "Go Bucs, raise the flags."
Yeah,
okay, I already told the Casey Phillips story.
Yep. I stepped in mud going to the car.
You did?
Well, it's the dirt parking lot.
Yeah, I didn't step in any mud.
No.
I know Brianna got a little rained on before the game, but for the most part, we were just up in the press box feeling bad for the people on the field.
Yeah.
The mashup, we absolutely are planning to do several of those in the at least 3, I think, in the off season. Mm-hmm. It's a little hard to.
It's one of your goals, or it's one of your, what do you call it?
I don't know.
Pillars.
I don't know.
You're in.
But we have already written down that we intend to do at least 3, because I think we were going to do one before the combine / free agency, one before the draft, and one before training camp. So if anybody doesn't know, obviously you're listening to the Salty Dogs podcast. Casey and Brianna do a really good Tampa 2 podcast that I think goes up on Fridays. They are very structured. As we've mentioned, if you listen to this podcast, you know there is no structure. We wind all over the place and double back and go off on tangents. They prepare ahead of time and do specific questions and that they answer. And so we have done 2 podcasts with them where we just mashed them up.
Yeah, just kind of talked.
We did a little like the way we do it and a little like the way they do it.
Sure.
And we've had several people say they liked it, so I'm happy to tell you that it's
not
in
the building. There's a big cry for it right now. To me, it's more work on my part, but
sorry about that. But it's a little hard to schedule that during the season, so we're going to do it in the off season.
Okay.
So thanks for that question.
Yep.
This is from Richard Terra Oka. He helpfully gives me the pronunciation each time now.
Good.
Richard Terra Oka. Hola, Saltineers. I thought it was going to be hola, like Spanish hello.
No.
Happy holidays to you and your families. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Same.
Great needed win on Sunday. Kalijah Cansey and Yaya Dabi are looking really promising for the future of the defensive line.
Yes.
I have a few questions for you guys. Well, that's what we're here for.
Let's do it.
Mike Evans continues to make history and hit his 1,000-yard week 13. Was that the fastest Evans made it to 1,000 yards in his career?
Good question.
I have an answer. I would love to see him be the Buccaneers' first 100 TDs player, not counting quarterbacks, but quarterbacks don't score touchdowns generally. They throw them, but they don't get credit for scoring them. So
right.
he's already obviously would be the first because he's the only guy. He's the top guy with 91. If you discussed this by this segment, no need to discuss again. So I put together last week for the purposes of potentially a story or a video.
Oh, you're thinking ahead.
Well, I'd pitched the idea that we do something
on
every catch that got him over 1,000.
Oh, I did hear you talking about this. I'm looking. Are you going to do it, right?
We're doing it.
Okay, good. Because
there's definitely going to be a video. I think I'll probably write a story as well. So in 2014, his rookie year, it was in week 17. In 2015, it was in week 15. In 2016, it was in week 12.
Wow.
Out of 17. We now have 18. In 2017, it was in week 17. In 2018, it was in week 12. In 2019, it was in week 12. In 2020, it was in week 17. 2021 was in week 18. And last year was in week 17. This year, week 13. So this is not his fastest.
No.
Because he's gotten there in week 12 3 times.
Speaking of going over 1,000 yards, what about Tyreek Hill? Almost going over. He has an opportunity to go over 2,000 yards.
I think he's well on pace for it, right?
Yeah, he is. No, he is. I think he's like, I want to say he's only like 500 yards short.
With five games to go.
Play.
He's at
something
1481.
Okay, well,
averaging 123.4 per game.
That would be pretty phenomenal. I mean, they have a very high, he plays for the Miami Dolphins, if you don't know, and they do have a high power offense.
They have a high powered offense, but it seems like you should know this is coming,
yeah.
and then he gets wide open behind the defense.
Well,
and then they can't catch him.
If you can't keep up with the guy, you know he's gonna,
He's on pace for 2,098 receiving yards.
Wow.
Do you know what the NFL record is?
No.
I don't either. But
I don't either. I have no idea, and I wouldn't even. It'd have to be recent because, gosh, in the beginning, no one ever threw the ball. Would it be Jerry? Would it be?
Yeah, I think it's Calvin Johnson off the top of my head.
Okay,
that
could be very true. That might be because he was at one time.
Calvin Johnson had 1964 in 2012, and Cooper Kupp had 1947 just 2 seasons ago.
Whoa.
So nobody's made it to 2,000 before.
Wow.
And he said that was his goal going into the season.
Yeah.
And it was reasonable, but still, you didn't really think he'd get there.
No. Considering no one believed in their quarterback. So
that's true. So. And also their quarterback's ability to stay healthy.
Yes, and he's done that.
All right, I don't think that was the end of that email. Let's see. What's the team's rookie record for sacks in a season? Is it breakable this year by Yaya and or
I think it was Gaines Adams, wasn't it? No. Who?
Santana Dotson 10 in 1992, my first season here.
Yes, now I remember.
That was a 5th-round draft pick.
Yeah, that was before he went to Green Bay.
He had 5 sacks in the Bucs' first 3 games, and then he ended up with 10, and that's still the record. And I think Gaines Adams is second with 6. No. Adrian Claiborne had 7.5 in his rookie year, and Gaines had 6 in his rookie year. So, I don't know. Do I really think Yaya's going to get 5 more in the last 5 games? Chances are not, but it's possible. And Kalijah's at 4, I think, so he'd need 6 more.
All of a sudden, you could get hot.
Well, Yaya is hot. He's got 5 in his last 6 games.
Yeah.
Okay. 3, I love listening to the Nothing But Bucs podcast with TJ Reeves.
Oh, wow.
Is there an understanding or an agreement for TJ to have his own little interview session? I'm asking this because when he starts to interview players in post-game media sessions, he gets to ask a series of questions in a row, and all the other media members let him. It's pretty badass. Since you did, thanks for reading.
Okay.
So Jeff's going to explain.
It depends on who he's talking to. Sometimes we are fortunate enough to get one-on-ones. Usually when we talk to Baker Mayfield, it is a one-on-one. The other thing, and I will say it's a courtesy that other media members do. If we step in there, we'll say we're live, and they are gracious enough to let him just ask questions until we walk away, and then they continue. So it's a little bit of both, but it is because the other media members are letting him proceed because we are the only outfit that is live out of the locker room.
I'm usually there when he does Baker because TJ is kind enough to let me also record it so I can get Baker quotes before he goes to the podium. That is generally before the media's in the locker room.
Yes.
They let there's obviously a period where there's nobody in there, and at some point they let TJ in with Kevin,
his producer,
and Baker knows that he's coming and he's been gracious, like we mentioned.
Very
last
gracious
week.
doing.
So we're all in there before the media's in there. Now later, when TJ's interviewing some other players, usually the rest of the media is in there.
Right.
And like you said, they understand what's going on.
Yeah.
And wait for him to finish before they can get theirs.
And that's a courtesy.
Well, also, all they're trying to do is get sound. So
that's true.
They're
too.
recording what he's saying when being interviewed by TJ.
So
they're just getting what they need.
Sure.
But they also they're gracious enough to wait.
Yeah, and I appreciate that.
All right. Good question.
Any media member listening to this podcast.
I think Greg Allman listens.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because he's always commenting how wrong I am.
Well, he also is the most thorough person in the world.
He does. So, he does his homework.
I think he considers listening to this podcast just part of being thoroughly covering the team.
I think he listens to this podcast when he's driving between the NFC South teams and gives him something to do as he's getting there.
We're talking about you, Greg.
All right.
All right. This is from Sam Nino in Nashville, Tennessee.
All right.
Dogs. I hope you're both doing well. Man, I was so happy for Mike that game. With his TD catch, the catch that extended his own record of consecutive 1,000-yard seasons to start a career, and with the stadium chanting his name, it made me feel like Mike was having his Rod Tidwell moment from Jerry Maguire.
Oh, nice.
When Rod caught that touchdown that basically ended the game and the crowd was going nuts, you knew Jerry was going to show him the money.
I like it.
I personally can't see how the team will let him walk after this great season he is having. It's obvious Evans is the best offensive player in Bucs history. This is me. I agree.
Sure.
In your opinion, what would he have to do to be the best overall player in Bucs history? Thanks for the great podcast as well, and let's take back first place again this week. Yeah. Also, we still need some Salty Dog merch.
All right. Maybe I'll put that in.
Maybe in the offseason.
Yeah.
We should put that in the plan.
Right.
Yeah, I was actually having a similar conversation because, yes, I don't think you can argue that he's the greatest offensive player in team history.
Oh, I'm with you.
If you were going to argue, I guess you'd go Mike Allstott, Paul Gruber,
right,
Tom Brady.
Yeah, Gronk wasn't here long enough to be that. Yeah.
What does he have to do? I mean, he has to make the Hall of Fame first.
Sure.
Because you can't really pick a guy that's not in the Hall of Fame over four guys that are. Like, we couldn't really say Simeon Rice, right, even though he's a fantastic player. You can't pick him over Derek Brooks and Warren Sapp and Rondé Barber and John Lynch.
Correct. No, I agree.
And Leroy Selman. Don't let me forget him. They're all defensive players. Where do you rank Mike now?
Ooh,
I think generally the argument is if you're choosing the best player in franchise history, usually comes down to Derek Brooks and Leroy Selman.
Yeah, I'd say that.
If you want to start there, but I'm sure many people would argue Rondé. I might argue that, or Derek Brooks. Warren Sapp. Excuse me. It gets tough though. Like Warren Sapp, if we look back at it, if we take ourselves back to that time, this was truly a game-changing player, position-changing. He changed the way the position is played. He won an NFL Defensive Player of the Year,
right?
As did Derek Brooks, as did Leroy Selman. Mike's not going to have an award like that, in his career.
Yeah.
If you ask me right now to pick between Warren and Mike, that's tough.
It's very tough.
Rondé Barber,
right?
I might put Rondé Barber third.
All right.
I might put Rondé Barber second or first. I mean, based on the weight of his accomplishments and his tenure with the team. Boy, I don't want to. I don't want to answer that question right now.
No,
let's wait and see what it looks like at the end.
I think that's kind of like ranking. When you power rankings.
Power rankings.
Yeah,
they're all great.
Yeah, depends on your mood. Depends on you can convince yourself this is it, and then you stop for a second, and then you can argue yourself out of that one for various reasons.
Plus, there's no one answer because you might think you know what the top five is, but it's different than my top five.
Right.
So It's a debate that'll never end.
No, and that's a good thing.
What would he have to do to be considered the best ever? He'd probably have to win like an Offensive Player of the Year award or something like that, and he'd have to get to 120 touchdowns?
Right.
Get top 10 all time in receiving, because Derek Brooks is probably all-time top 10 in tackling. Warren Sapp amongst defensive tackles is probably up there in sacks. Rondé Barber, we know where he stands with his numbers.
Oh, yeah.
John Lynch, don't want to not mention John Lynch. If you go by what they call approximate value, which is kind of a catch-all stat like WAR, the list goes Derek Brooks, Rondé Barber, Warren Sapp, Levante David.
See, he's sneaky.
Leroy Selman, John Lynch, and Mike Evans. So he's ranked 7th now with 81 AV, but he's only 3 behind Lynch. He's 11 behind Selman, but he is 111 behind Derek Brooks.
Wow.
So if you are, this is on Pro Football Reference. I think it's a well-respected stat. Approximate value. Derek Brooks is so far ahead of the rest of the field, Rondé second, that I don't see how Mike could possibly catch him. Right. He's got 81 WAR through 10 seasons, and he's not even halfway to what Derek Brooks has.
Right.
I'm not WAR, AV, but similar. So anyway, it's a tough climb, but it's fine just to say he's the greatest offensive player. And for a franchise that is mostly known for defense. All right. This is from Rhett Goodrich, who writes from us and has written to us before from Alaska.
Oh, okay.
Remember that whole conversation?
Sure, yeah. That was great.
Ahoy again, and still shivering me timbers with temps in the single digits.
Wow.
Not envious of that.
Here I'm looking at our temperature and going, wow, it's going to be 43 Thursday morning wearing long pants.
Wow, cool.
Yeah.
I had the air conditioning on last night, though.
So did I.
Thanks for answering.
But it was best because it's so muggy. It wasn't like the temperature was so high. It was just so muggy.
I just feel like it feels so still in the house when you don't ever have the AC on. Thanks for answering my question a couple weeks ago. I always appreciate your insight. So for this week, I wanted to ask your opinions on uniform selection. I have noticed that our team primarily wears the white jerseys for the majority of the season. I know during the hottest days, it's a strategy to make the visiting team wear the dark colors in hopes that they can't handle the heat.
Right.
But we seem to wear them even when it's cooling off, in parentheses, a bit, resulting in the Bucs being white and pewter instead of our beloved scarlet and white. It's not scarlet.
Right.
Or scarlet and pewter. Also, when might the Bucs jump on the multiple alternate or retro uniform train? Don't get me wrong, I love the pewters, and I love the creamsicle uniforms in moderation, but I would like to see some different colors. Anxious to hear your thoughts. And until next time, the Squatch.
Yeah.
You want to handle any of this? No?
It's all done in April, so it's a decision made. I like the white.
I do too. See, that's the thing. He's saying that red on white or red on pewter is better, and I actually don't.
No.
Red on pewter is my least favorite.
Yeah, that would be my least favorite. I like the white. I like the all pewter.
I like the all pewter. I like the all white.
Yeah.
I think the all white is my favorite. Mm-hmm. You had the answer there. We wear white here at home early in the season, right, to try to get an advantage, put them in dark uniforms. The problem is it's still hot now, and we know that in April that it's still going to be hot in November.
Right, and the home team decides what color, whether it be a light color or a dark color first. The home team gets that privilege, and then the visiting team gets the other choice.
They have to go with the white, although we did notice that the color rush kind of makes an exception because we wore pewter and the Colts wore blue.
Right.
I saw another example of that
which
this
I
week.
thought too was interesting was the Carolina Panthers blue. I don't remember them in all blue, that shade of all blue before. It was I thought it just looked different. I should have asked those guys that.
So it's the same answer in November as it is in September. It's still hot here, and we have learned that.
Yeah.
You probably will see us. Let's see, we got
2 more. Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve.
I would suspect we'll be in red in those.
Oh, I would. Yeah, I like Christmas one would be kind of cool.
Yeah, and most teams. Let's wear green pants.
Speaking of, I did like the lights on the pirate ship. The Christmas lights on the pirate ship.
Cool.
That is very cool.
So, as Jeff said, the other team decides, and teams that play in domes or are not worried about hot weather tend to wear their colored jerseys. At home, so that puts the Bucs in white.
Yeah. So,
with the exception of this all pewter thing we did. Red here is asking for other alternatives. The only other one, I mean, you got pewter. Yeah. You got a pewter jersey, you got a red jersey, and you got a white jersey. So And we've got creamsicle.
Right.
So the only thing you could do is black.
Could you do the white creamsicle uniform?
Like white pants?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's talking about different colored jerseys, though.
All right. Well, can you...
Why would you want to wear creamsicle pants and
with
white jerseys? I could see creamsicle jerseys and white pants because we did do that some.
Yeah.
I like the way we have it. I've heard people clamoring for, and you can even buy black Bucs jerseys.
That was first announced when they changed in '97.
Announced?
Well, when they had the big unveiling of the new uniform at the convention center, they displayed the black one also. I can't remember which player had it on, but they did. You don't remember that?
I remember that day.
Yeah.
We've never worn black jerseys.
No, we never wore them, but we have them.
One of them was black?
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's actually we have to go to the photo archives, but there's pictures of it.
I'm gonna do that and bring this back up next week if you're wrong.
Good. If I'm right, are you going to bring it up?
I'll tell you right. Yeah.
Okay.
I remember that day because I was in PR then, and I was involved in the whole process of how we did everything. And we had the little press conference inside, and then we went outside to show them to the assembled fans.
Yeah.
And fireworks were involved, and walkie-talkies. And I don't remember. There was some miscommunication. I'm pretty sure that I told them to go ahead and shoot the fireworks off, and it was a little early.
A little too soon. But that was a big event because that was carried live on all local TVs.
Oh, cool.
And then I was working at the radio station. We were broadcasting live from that.
And the three guys, the three players that modeled it were, if I remember, Hardy Nickerson, Mike Allstott, and Trent.
Yes. And I want to say Hardy was in the black, but maybe I don't know. We're going to have to find a picture.
I don't feel like you're
know.
Right here.
I know you don't.
But
feel
anyway,
like right.
there are people companies make Bucs black jerseys that they've sold. I don't think there's any plans for the Bucs to do that, and we already did multiple different schemes, as he pointed out, because we did creamsicle and we did pewter.
Yeah. All right.
And the creamsicles are pretty much universally loved now, so they're not going anywhere.
Nope.
So if you wanted to do something other than pewter, the best I could think of was black. I wouldn't be against it. It would be interesting to see, but I kind of doubt it's going to happen.
Never say never, because in the next few years, who knows what's going to pop up next.
Well, never say never, except I think we're done.
All right. You don't have anything else? Really?
Dude.
Wow.
That's all the questions.
Wow.
What do you want from me, man?
I'm just, you're standing up and stretching, so I figured you were totally done. Yeah, okay, we're going to have to check on that. I had a conversation with someone else about this on the convention center and all of that.
Okay.
I do.
I can picture the pictures. But I don't remember anybody being in black.
Yeah, because it was weird because they had it, but we never.
It seems like quite a tease if we put somebody out there in black.
Well, I remember it. But then again, I could have, as they say nowadays, misremembered, which always makes me laugh. You didn't misremember. You're wrong. And if I'm wrong, I'll accept that. And so you stay tuned for next week to find out if I am right and Scott's wrong. And hopefully we won't be as salty. We'll be singing a song, being tied for first place. How's that?
I would like that very much.
All right. You done?
I'm done.
And for you, since you did, thanks for listening.